What's up, passionate DJs? Today we're looking at a DJ controller called the Pioneer DDJ-FLX6. And specifically, this is the FLX6-GT version, which is finished in this nice lighter gray graphite color. This is a DJ controller that's kind of centered around the idea of open format DJs, or DJs who want to mix a lot of different styles or genres together, or BPMs, as kind of evidenced by the graphic up here behind me. And this is largely due to the fact that you've got these giant knobs here called merge effects, in addition to your normal effects. And those are sort of effects that help you get from one style to another, or one BPM to another, without necessarily like beat matching them or mixing them in a traditional way. So it's a pretty interesting approach, and generally speaking, I think this is a really good sort of mid-range DJ controller product, so much so that it is on my Ultimate DJ Controller Guide, which you can find all the time at passionatedj.com/controllers. So what we're looking at here is a pretty close to full-size controller. It's got the jog wheels that are the same size as CDJ-3000s or the DDJ-1000, but it's not a perfect controller, and so we're going to talk about some of the compromises and things that you'll find on this controller. Now, before we get on with it, I do want to just quickly mention that we have launched our YouTube membership program. So if you want to get early access to videos like this, it just costs a couple bucks, and it really helps us out. So you can sign up using the link below, click any join button that you find on our YouTube channel, or all the time you can just go to passionatedj.com/join. So without further ado, let's look at the Flex 6. The FLX6, or Flex 6 if you prefer, is a 4-channel DJ controller which is USB powered and driverless, and supports Rekordbox, Serato, Virtual DJ and Traktor. Now, the original Flex 6 was advertised as being for Rekordbox and Serato only, but actually it now supports Virtual DJ and Traktor as well. So while Pioneer's marketing makes it look like the GT model does something that the original doesn't, that's not actually true. This is quite simply an FLX6 with a different paint job and slightly upgraded jog wheels. Now, why would they bother doing such a minor upgrade? Well, I'm not entirely sure. My suspicion is that they've upgraded or replaced something on the inside that was either problematic or causing supply chain issues and making the original hard to find. I don't know that for sure, it's just speculation, but just to be clear, I'm essentially reviewing both models here. And whether you're interested in this controller or any other DJ hardware, I highly recommend you buy yours at thedjhookup.com. We work with the DJ Hookup because they are the highest rated DJ retailer online. They offer free shipping, financing, and other great services, and they have an online chat where you can talk to DJ hardware experts in case you're, not quite sure which way you want to go. Now, I love the DJ Hookup, and I think that you will too, so if you want to support an actual independent shop that's focused entirely on DJ hardware, head on over to their website or in the link below and make your order today. Now, as you can see here on the top of the FLX6 GT version, it's a very nice, sharp-looking controller. It's pretty handsome. The one thing that I noticed is the color of the finish. This graphite is much lighter in person than it seems to be in pictures. Even here on this picture of the box, it looks darker. But that's not necessarily bad. It's just something that I noticed. The other thing that's not intuitively obvious, these jog wheels are massive. They are the same size as the ones on the CDJ-3000s. Now, I don't think they're the same jog wheels, at least internally, and you can tell that they feel different when you move them. These ones make a little bit of noise, but just a little bit. It's nothing like super grindy or anything, but you don't have any of that on the 3000s. But that being said, they are these massive jog wheels, and so as a result, they've done some things to cater to these large jog wheels. By the way, they have these displays here in the middle that show your track position and stuff, which is very nice. But they don't have the tempo faders here on the side or anything. They've got them, down here. On each side, you'll see a deck, and then, of course, the mixer section in the middle. Everything here, as is kind of Pioneer tradition at this point, sort of mimics a, club standard DJM and CDJ type of setup. But there are some differences. So you'll notice here in this gloss black section here where the effects are, the main effects, you know, they're a little bit de-emphasized compared to some other Pioneer devices. You know, rather than big, you know, clicky knobs where you can select the different things, you just kind of have like little toggle buttons for selecting your effects banks, selecting which channel you're applying it to, and the beat division, and then of course your parameter adjustment, so your level or depth, and then the release effects button here that you push to actually engage it. Above that is your sort of controls for your master output and your booth output, and then the cue button here for if you want to hear the master in your headphones when you're cueing. One thing I really like is how they've done the browse thing here, where you've got a single browse knob up top, and then just the 4 load buttons down there right under it. Of course, you can double tap either one of those to load instant doubles. You have up here a switch to change between deck 4 or the sampler. You know, that might seem at first to be a little limiting. Well, if you want to use a sampler, then you only have a, quote, 3-channel mixer. But if you're mixing 4 full channels and a sampler, maybe this isn't the device for you anyway. There's so few people that actually do that. So yeah, this is a 4-channel mixer, and one of them is assignable to be used as a sampler. Now, we talked a little bit about this really simple release effects section, but one thing that is not so subtle is the giant merge effects knobs up here. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in the next section when we talk about the effects and how they work. But that was another thing that was really striking to me when I took it out of the box, is the merge effects knobs are massive as well. I mean, these things are huge, and they feel nice and chunky, and they have some resistance to them, which makes them feel kind of nice. And you can really tell that this controller is almost sort of built around this idea of mixing and then using merge effects to do your transitions. Up here at the top of each deck, you have your loop controls, your in and out, your exit, and then your cue and loops memory stuff right here. You can select between your decks 3 and 4 by just hitting that button right there. You've got your shift button here to access any of your secondary functions. So basically anything that's like, you know, written in this text under here, under a button, you can access with the shift button. You've got nice clicky play, pause, and cue buttons. The pads, you know, they're okay. They have a clicky response too, not quite like this. But they don't have that velocity sensitive feel. They just have an on and off state. The mixer section here, pretty much standard Pioneer stuff. You've got your gain knob here, your 3-band EQ, and then a filter knob, left for high pass, or left for low pass, right for high pass. And that pretty much covers the top of the unit itself. Build quality wise, it's pretty good. Now, this is the GT model, even though it doesn't say GT up here. And that's one interesting thing about the FLX6 and this sort of refresh of it, is this isn't really a drastically new device, as we talked about earlier in the video. It's almost closer to like a Mark II version of the FLX6. It's kind of interesting that they're selling this as a separate thing. This is basically an FLX6. You can download a Traktor mapping for the other FLX6. You can use Virtual DJ and Serato and Rekordbox with both of them. So really the only noticeable physical actual upgrade hardware-wise that I can tell on the GT model is that the jog wheels are a little better. They have this like rubberized texture around them. My advice would be, if you're looking at this unit and you see the GT model, get the GT model. If you have an FLX6 and it's working for you, then of course it's not worth it to upgrade. You should be perfectly fine with the one you've got as long as you have no issues. But when you flip it around to the back, you can start to notice where a lot of the cost savings go, and how they're able to crank out this sort of seemingly fully featured 4-channel multi-software supporting DJ controller. Now you can kind of see maybe where some of the cost cutting comes in. There are no external inputs, so you can't use CDJs or turntables or timecode records or anything like that. This is an all-in-the-box type of device. So I just want to make sure that's clear, that you don't have external inputs other than this mic input. In fact, there's not even an auxiliary input here to hook up your phone or something, so that's something to bear in mind. There's also no XLR outputs. It's only RCA master and booth out. No quarter inch, no balanced outputs. The only balanced connection you're going to find is for this microphone right here. The device is powered by USB, which is very convenient, but that means it doesn't plug into mains power, which is a concern for some people. So once again, this is where you'll see, oh, okay, this is why it's maybe a mid-tier or a mid-grade controller rather than like a top-tier professional one, such as maybe the DDJ-1000 or something like that. That's not to say that this is a bad choice. For most people, that will be fine. You're going to be, hooking up to a live stream. You're going to be hooking up to your local club or bar or something like that, and it's going to suffice for that sort of thing. Or daisy chaining into another, DJ mixer that's close by, something like that. We see these scenarios all the time in local shows and stuff like that. So I don't want to discourage you if it doesn't really apply to you, but it is worth noting that there is no like XLR balanced or quarter-inch connections to connect to a club PA in a sort of noise-free way, if that makes sense. Now underneath on each side there are these pretty convenient little carrying handles, which is really nice. And the controller is not overly heavy. It's large enough. It's got to hold those large jog wheels after all, but it's not super heavy. It's not cumbersome. It's really easy to carry around. Really convenient for as large and spaced out as everything is here. It's not hard to find space for it on the desk. And then if we just look down here on the front, we do have our headphones connections right there, and the dials for adjusting the level and mix of that, as well as your mic controls. Alright, so let's talk about the special features that are specific to the Flex 6, starting with the merge effects. Now these help you transition between tracks regardless of BPM or genre, and the default preset is built around this snare roll. You'll notice that the effect starts and ends with hitting the button in the middle, and you adjust the effect by twisting the knob, in this case making the snare roll faster. This transition effect will basically go on forever at the current parameter setting until you tell it to stop by hitting the button. Notice how it's applying effects to the sound while it's enabled, not just sampling the snare. Here's the second built-in preset, which is built around this continuous riser sound instead of a repeating snare drum. That one's a little much for me personally, but I could definitely see where DJs would use that in a big energy set and use it to sort of build tension. And so the idea is that you could build out of one of these tracks and then just drop mix straight into the next deck by hitting play. Okay, so here's how this works. You can see right here, this is the loop that I was just playing. You don't have to put it in a loop, that's just what I was doing here for demo purposes so I didn't run out of song. But if you go up here to the top right, there's a little gear icon and you can change your merge effects settings here. And it pops up this window here and you can select your merge effects presets. You've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it comes with the stock ones here displaying. And basically you have two different types of merge effects. You've got risers and drops. And when you have a drop, one that says drop at the end, like space drop or zip drop, then it will play a sample at the end, kind of after the sound stops, it'll play a sample. The riser will kind of build up and up and up and up and then do the release effects, kind of like we were showing. So if we look here at build effects, there's a drop-down menu and you can change the type of effect that's applied as soon as you turn the merge effects on. So here we've got a filter echo. I'll turn it up a little bit. Okay, so what's happening, as soon as I hit that button, it turns on a filter echo and it starts the build sample here. And that's the sound that starts oscillating or repeating as soon as you turn it on. So both of these two things happen as soon as you hit the button. This one, the release effects, this is what happens when you let go or when you push the button again to kind of turn off the merge effects. So these turn on, you twist the knob, it changes the rate that this is happening at, and then it does a release effects, which in this case is an impact snare, which is just that that you hear at the end of this one. Drop sample doesn't do anything on this because this is a riser effect, not a drop effect. So once again, here's what that sounds like. Okay, so what about these drop effects? Well, one cool thing that you can do here, so I've got space drop. So you notice nothing really happens when you push the button, nothing really noticeable. When you turn it. And if we were to leave it there, it would just kind of do that little rumble there. So you hit the button, and then it'll vinyl break, echo out, right? So one thing that you can do is add a drop sample here. So you could do, let's do the horn noise and see what that sounds like. And by the way, one thing that I notice is you have to change to the effects, the merge effects again. You can't just leave it here, or it'll keep doing the same thing it was doing before. So you actually cycle through back to merge effects of 3 and merge effects of 3, and then we will see what it sounds like. Okay, so I'm not going to leave it that way, but you get the idea. The drop sample starts playing as soon as the release effects is done. Well, one cool thing that you can do with the drop sample is you can actually tie it into your sampler deck. So you can see back here I've got some stuff loaded here in the back in my sampler and Rekordbox. So you can select sampler and then you can actually tell it which sample you want it to play. This is the only place you can put a custom sample that I found. Let's cycle through the merge effects again. Okay, so I'm 12, but the idea is you could put any sample in there from your Rekordbox sampler and you can play whatever sound you want there. Okay, that's enough of that. I did try to add that as the build sample so that it would repeat that little inappropriate noise, but I couldn't get that to work. So you can only set that as the drop sample. So I actually think this merge effects thing is pretty cool. It's been a little controversial, you know, to more experienced DJs. You know, they're kind of saying that this is cheating or whatever. I see this as a pretty neat tool to be able to, you know, go between drastically different genres or BPMs or something like that. I do think it can sound a little bit cheesy. It's going to be something that's really easy to overdo. Most of the stuff is built on presets, and you can select the samples and stuff that are built in, but you're going to start hearing this effect over and over again if DJs over-rely on the merge effects. But that being said, that's a DJ problem. That's not a problem with the Flex 6. The thing that does worry me about it is that you'll become reliant on this. So if you, say, want to upgrade to DDJ-1000 or CDJs or anything, if you just want to move to any other device, this isn't going to be here. And then what are you going to do? It's not teaching you, you know, how to actually transition between tracks. It's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So that's something to bear in mind is, yes, this can be a good tool. Just bear in mind that it only exists here. Now, moving on from the merge effects, there's another exclusive feature on this device called the jog cutter. I have nothing nice to say about the jog cutter as opposed to the merge effects. It's supposed to automate scratching sounds. Well, let me just try to demo it for you. So I've loaded scratch sample over here. Do you see how long it took me to even find a scratch that sounded right? I've been messing with this for a while, and figuring out where it's even trying to repeat the sample is a huge pain. You know, I just can't ever get it to sound good. It never sounds like a natural scratch. I can't even call this a cheater feature because it doesn't sound like scratching. I thought I must be doing something wrong, so I looked up Pioneer's demo of this, which sounds like this. I don't understand why this is here. Don't use it. I don't get it. At least with the Rev 1, which has some automation on it, it's automating crossfader cuts, and it's giving you a sharp cut, and you can kind of get a sound that resembles like a chirp scratch or something like that. This I don't understand why you'd ever use. Sorry, Pioneer. Alright, so let's break down the various software packages that are supposed to be supported by this controller. Now, the product is advertised as being compatible with Rekordbox, Serato, Virtual DJ, and Traktor, and the software that I recommend you use for it is in precisely that order. When you get to the non-Rekordbox software packages, merge effects don't really exist, so they try to offer an approximation. Serato fared the best during my tests. It was just as plug-and-play compatible as using it with Rekordbox, in that you can just start it up and go. But as you can hear, well, Serato's doing its best to imitate the merge effects from the true Rekordbox version. Now what's happening is Pioneer is using custom mappings, macros, and the built-in features of those software packages. So, you know, if you combine loop rolls and reverbs and turntable break effects and so on, you can get something that kind of works like the original merge effects. But it's not nearly as good nor as customizable. You know, it's immediately obvious that it wasn't really meant to do this. Next, I tested Virtual DJ, and it was a similar thing. When you activate merge effects, you can see the software engaging built-in effects and a sampler to try and simulate the sound. Again, I see what they're doing, but it's not as good as the Rekordbox version. I also noticed that the functionality is slightly different for each program. For example, why does the select button do this? Virtual DJ worked overall without too much hassle, but if you want to use these merge effects at all, you will need to go into the settings and install this extension. Traktor was the most egregious of them all. There's literally a 2-page guide on how to get this working with Traktor, so much for plug and play, and it's the same sort of thing. There are built-in Traktor effects and functions to make an approximation of merge effects with weird quirks that don't match the other software. Jog Cutter doesn't seem to do anything here, and generally speaking, non-native instruments Traktor controllers that are MIDI mapped in this way are notoriously laggy. I wouldn't want to use this for actual scratching either. This controller is compatible with Traktor in the same way that every MIDI controller is compatible with Traktor, so the fact of the matter is, this is a Rekordbox controller, and a decent Serato controller too, considering it does unlock the software and doesn't require you to configure a single thing. When dealing with anything else, your mileage may vary. Okay, so that brings it to a close. That's the Flex 6, this is the GT model, and I do recommend this controller for, you know, a certain kind of DJ. First of all, the DJ who's going to be changing between different genres all the time, the merge effects could be a lifesaver. They are really handy for, I want to go from, 130 BPM house to this 90 BPM whatever pop song. How do I get from here to here without making that too incredibly jarring? So that does give you an option for doing that. Though once again, if you get too married to that, then it's like, what happens when you move on from this controller? You don't have that anymore. But that minor concern aside, I think merge effects are actually kind of cool. Not a fan of the jog cutter, as I mentioned before, but, and there are a few other compromises, like the lack of balanced XLR outputs and things like that. Not everybody needs that stuff, right? And this is a mid-range controller, so if you're kind of asking, if you have, kind of mixed feelings on a controller like this, then why is it one of the ones that you recommend on your guide? Well, that's because this is a mid-range controller. That price range is all about compromise. It's why it exists, right? So if you want the balanced connections, if you want to, some of the things that are missing, like a, track skip feature, hardware mixing, stuff like that, then you can step up to, say, the DDJ-1000, which is my top overall recommended DJ controller right now. But not everybody needs that stuff. So you can save a few $100s, plus you can get these cool, merge effects and things like that, and save yourself some money. So, at this price point, I don't expect it to be perfect. I expect it to be good. And the complaints that I have about this controller have to do with its gimmicks and its marketing. And neither of those are really a problem if you go into this knowing what you're getting, right? I think that if you go into this with a clear head and you say, hey, this is a great controller that supports multiple software packages, that has nice big chunky jog wheels, but it's easy to carry around and is affordable, this is the one. So thank you so much. I hope that helps. If you want to get an FLX6 or FLX6-GT or however you want to say it, be sure to get yours at thedjhookup.com. I put a link down in the description below. The DJ Hookup makes all these videos possible when we're doing these hardware reviews and stuff. So shout out to them. Thank you guys for being awesome and doing what you do. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like content just like this. Also, check out our audio podcast using your favorite podcatcher. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much, and keep on spinning.